I mean, people are inside that stadium. We just heard over the loudspeaker them introducing some things going on inside. So we're really excited to get in there. And you mentioned Hang On Sloopy. They just played it at the stage over right next to where we are sitting. Don't worry, I did it right. I made sure to, show out, to make sure to show out. I did. I was the only one, but that's okay. That's okay. But yeah, I mean, I hear the roar of the crowd right now. You can hear it out here. So, I mean, there are 16,000 loud in there, I guess. It's going to be really a lot of fun.
That is amazing. Really looking forward to that. I feel like I didn't introduce the video properly. Tonight is the national championship game, everybody, in case you didn't know. Ohio State will be taking on Alabama for the title. I didn't say that properly, but I figured if they're watching, they might already know. And, Coach, what do you think? How are they going to win it?
Well, we're going to win it, first of all, by playing more physical than Alabama. The one thing about the Ohio State football team, you saw it against Clemson, is they are a physical group, especially up front, offensive and defensive line. So you got to do that thing first. Then don't make any key mistakes, and also don't let your foot off the pedal. Once you get them down, keep driving.
Hey, before we go further, let's get Whitney. Before we want to get Whitney in the stadium. Admittedly.
Oh yes, so, absolutely.
Whitney, first thing, we know now the lineup. We know who is in, who is out for Ohio State, and let's dial down on that a little bit. Yep. No Tyreek Smith, no Tommy Togiai expected, no place kickers. The top two place kickers are out. Yes. You've got a true freshman in that spot. That I think is a concern for Ohio State.
I agree. I think that is a concern. And if I end up cutting out everybody, I'm sorry. My computer is like on its last little leg here. The kicking is interesting. And so it's one of those things on fourth down situations. Is Ryan Day going to go for it more? Is he going to take those chances? Red zone becomes so important. And I am back with my tight end fun. That is where they're going to be so big, is in that red zone, because we saw it in the last game. They can be huge weapons down there. That is going to be critical tonight. But the good news, Zach Harrison's back. That is excellent, excellent news.
And
hey, Whitney.
Yes,
that's
Tyler
pretty significant at defensive end. So, Whitney, you and Mike, you hop in the stadium. You guys have been awesome so far. And we will talk to you, obviously, later on tonight, potentially after a Buckeye victory. We'll see.
Hoping so. I'll see you guys later.
All right, be safe, Whit.
See ya.
Hey, Justin, let me come to you then. About that topic. So we were talking earlier, just looking at the numbers here. Jordan Seibert's 0 for 1 on field goals this year. But he is known for at least a few days that he's going to kick in this game. I just wonder the psyche for a young athlete to wear this, for the few days going into the biggest game of your life. It's a young man anyway, and, some do and some don't. I guess we find out about people.
Yeah, and this is not the game that he's used to. I mean, he came in against Rutgers and he came in against Indiana. He's a perfect 13 for 13 on PATs, so at least he's solid there. But having only kicked one field goal in a game this year, being a true freshman, I know everyone in Cincinnati is going to root for him. He's a LaSalle kid. But you're right. This platform on the biggest stage in college football, I think he's got a lot of pressure on him. I thought that this was going to be a 3-6-point game in the end. And so it might even come down to field goals. And if you look at the other side, Alabama's kicker has not missed this year. He is unstoppable when it comes to kicking the football, just as good as Justin Tucker is in the NFL. He has been that in college. So you're going up against a guy like that. You have to make your kicks when the time comes. And for Ohio State, don't put the pressure on him. If you can, score when you're in the red zone. It worked against Clemson, and you're going to have to do that against Alabama too.
Yeah, no doubt. Coach, I want to get to you on some late roster changes, or not changes, but some stability, what we know about starters, for example, for tonight. So Harry Miller is back at guard, but he's not the starter. They're still going with Matt Jones as a starter, and I thought Matt did a great job in his interim stints in the Michigan State game. Played very well against Clemson as well before he went out with an injury. So he is back in tonight. It appears he will be the starter at guard. And then at end, you're going to get Zach Harrison starting at end, and you are going to get Teron Vincent starting at the other defensive tackle. So when you look at highly recruited guys anyway, even without Togiai and Smith there, you still have 4- and 5-star recruits across the defensive line. That just speaks to depth building and maintenance.
Yeah, it talks to great recruiting. So it talks about too. These guys are ready to play. The one thing about the Ohio State Buckeyes, The young guys that have got in this year have done a tremendous job. It is their opportunity, so they're excited about it. And the coaching staff's a smart coaching staff too. They know what they can do in what situations. For example, if it's a passing situation, say it's third and 8, 3rd and 9, you can actually put 3 or 4 defensive ends, your faster guys, in a game at one time and get a better pass rush maybe. But yeah, some different guys, but we've been living through this all year. So they're ready to go. Coaches are ready to go. I'm excited.
Hey, Justin, one thing about Jalen Waddle for Alabama, we've been watching him go through the warm-ups here. He's dressed. Some people thought he looked really good. I didn't.
He looked a little bit hobbled.
I didn't think he looked quite right, frankly. I mean,
it might be an ankle brace.
It might. You're right. That's what I'm thinking. And maybe it's him trying to adjust to equipment more than his physical health. Look, he's faster than us, and so he might play, but I'm not sure that's going to be a situation for Ohio State. You know what I mean? Like, I would be really surprised if he's a major contributor in this game. Maybe he can play for a while, but I don't know. That didn't look right to me.
No, I thought he looked a little bit slower than usual, but his slowest is pretty much anybody else's fastest.
No doubt.
And if you're Alabama, put him on the field, because then if you're Ohio State, you have to game plan against him. You have to have a game plan. I'm sure they have throughout the week, whether or not he was going to play or if he was not going to play. But if he's out there warming up and they see that, then they're going to start with that game plan of how do we handle both him and Heisman winner Devontae Smith. So that's a big ask for Ohio State secondary, 116th in the nation in pass defense. Sevyn Banks, obviously, he's gotten better as the year has gone on, but playing a guy like that, I mean, it's hard to compare him to anybody else. Maybe Devontae Smith, his teammate who won the Heisman Award, but they're probably the best 1-2 combo wide receiver in the country. And Ohio State might have the number 2 with Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave out there. So it's going to be a big ask for both secondaries tonight.
Yep. Maybe they can fight for it tonight.
Yeah.
Certainly going to be an adjustment, at least for Ohio State. Alabama had fans in their stadium, but this is the biggest crowd Ohio State is playing in front of in more than a year. So definitely probably going to hype them up a little bit. Exciting. Coach, how much of an impact do you think it'll have? Whitney could hear him from outside that there were about 16,000 fans in there.
Yeah, I think it's an advantage of Ohio State. They're not used to seeing this many fans or hearing this many fans. And you know how well the Buckeyes travel. Nobody travels better than the Ohio State Buckeyes. And so that's going to be exciting. That would be a little extra energy and enthusiasm for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest curiosity, Bill, is, you haven't really had to adjust to crowd noise all year. It's on account there hasn't been one. There might be a little bit of that, but obviously it's, you're talking about a place that seats more than 60,000 people. So it's, it's not going to be, overwhelming by any means. I guess my curiosity is about tempo tonight. When you look at what Ohio State did against Clemson and the way that they not only went tempo, their jet tempo, they're, immediately get up and snap the ball, but they varied their tempo. They would huddle in some cases, and they were basically playing around with Clemson defensively. And so many times they just couldn't even get lined up when the ball was snapped, and they had no chance. The ball's in Trey Sermon's belly, and he's 8 yards down the field, and no one was lined up. How critical, Bill, is pace? Alabama knows it's coming, but it's another thing to defend it.
Yeah, well, first of all, Alabama saw what Ohio State did. Like you said, Jared, guys weren't even in their stance, and we were running the football right down their throat. So they'll make those adjustments. They practice against that. But for Ohio State, the one thing you don't want to do is do exactly what you did against Clemson. You want to change things up. The whole thing is putting uncertainty in the mind of the coaches and the players of Alabama. So the tempo will be in practice, I'm sure, this week. They analyzed what they wanted to do and saw specific situations where they want to up tempo, specific situations where they want to down tempo. So that's part of the strategy that coaches go through.
Jared, I have a question for you too.
Yeah, fire, Bob.
So Mac Jones is the most efficient quarterback, but he also gets the ball out the quickest. How do you game plan for a quarterback like that? And they love throwing short passes and letting their speed guys do the rest of the work. They don't necessarily do the deep ball. They did at the beginning of the season. But when they lost Waddle, they kind of went back to, let's check it down and just beat you with our speed. How do you defend against that?
That's a good point. And the other thing about that is it does eliminate some of Ohio State's rush. And we know Ohio State can annoy a quarterback and frustrate them. And, Trevor Lawrence is a prime example of that. He even threw for 400 yards, but he did so through a lot of problems. Yep. And especially in the fourth quarter of that game, it was problematic for him.
3 fumbles, yeah.
Exactly. And so I think that's the issue for Ohio State. They've got to win up front. They've got to make it difficult for them to run. They've got to make them throw it out quick. The other thing is, Bill, we talked about it earlier. They're going to play soft coverage in all likelihood. There were a lot of look, social media is what it is, but there was a lot of chatter on social. And when you go back and look at some of the clips of the game, you understand why. When Shaun Wade basically bailing on coverage, giving up 4 or 5 yards of space to the receiver multiple times, especially in the first half of that game with Clemson. And that's not – Shaun Wade can run with guys. You know what I mean? That was very clearly intended by Ohio State. And I'm wondering, to Justin's point there, if you can't get home on the rush, do you have to be a little bit more tight in coverage?
Well, yeah, you got – obviously, if you're throwing really short passes, you'll have to change things up like we talked about. But remember this. Linebackers have a big say with those receivers that are immediate threats, too. They've got to be sharp to that. Here's the other thing. You watched a lot of pro ball this weekend? You saw one thing. A lot of passes batted down by the defensive front. And no defensive front in America gets their hands up quicker when they have to than Larry Johnson's defensive line. So a lot of that is make him throw through windows or instead of over top of windows, and you have a chance.
If we're also going to refer to last night, it'd be great if Alabama gets the ball first, if they just snap it over his head.
And that was a guy as a veteran.
Landon Dickerson, their center, isn't playing. Well, you know what? He's actually he tore an ACL. Maybe 3 weeks ago. He's suited up tonight.
He suited up. I think it's just one more time to wear the jersey, right?
I think that's if not, it's the most divine intervention in history when it comes to ACL injuries. That kid's got a
those
huge
don't heal
future.
quickly.
No, they do not.
That's what you call a decoy, pregame decoy.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think anyone's falling for it.
Hey, you know what? To Justin's point, this is the national championship game. It is a big deal to wear that uniform your whole rest of your life. And that's why I feel awful for every kid like Blake Haubill and Tyreek Smith and Tommy Togiai and all these kids that can't just be there. Of course, they'd love to play, but you want to be there. You want to say that you were there for the rest of your life. You never know. If 2020 taught us literally one thing, is that you never know. Nothing is guaranteed. And the fact that they all have to miss this opportunity, whether or not they're going to play or not, just to have the uniform on and stand on the field in the biggest stage of the sport, that stinks. And I don't know that, I don't care who's playing in the game. If it's Ohio State playing in the game or anybody else, if you have a kid that can't play in this one, that's brutal.
And you don't want to end your career that way either. I mean, some of these guys are juniors, seniors, and they're going to have a decision to make about staying or going to the NFL. And this can't be, it doesn't want to be what your last game is. You're going to remember it as a game that you didn't get to play in. And it's the most important one that you'll ever be a part of in your career. So that's just a tough break for those guys and anybody that has to miss this game. And that's why Waddle is out there on the field too, trying to give it a go.
Yeah.
All right, we are live right now on NBC4i.com as well as our Facebook pages. We appreciate all of the comments you guys are leaving for us right now. Let me know if you guys have any questions for Jared, Coach, or Justin, and we will read them and try to get them answered for you. And if you don't have any questions, just stop by and say hi. Let us know where you guys are watching right now. If you're in Ohio, what part of the state you're in, or if you're joining us from different parts of the state. Buckeye Nation has no bounds, so let us know where you're watching from. Come say hi or ask some questions if you want to know. Basically anything. Coach knows everything as far as I'm concerned.
My players never thought that.
From watching warm-ups here, I really do think Jalen Waddle is not going to be a big factor in this. He's not running a lot of routes. He's out there. He's in his warm-ups. Or he's in his uniform. He's in his full uniform. I just don't think he's going to be a big factor. Having said that, Alabama is still good enough, more than good enough. And now let's go to the other way, though. When you talk about what Alabama has to account for with Ohio State, Bill, we addressed this earlier. They've got to figure out how to solve Ohio State's balance. And when we discussed it on television a little bit ago, if you're a defense and you're trying to figure out how to take away something, how does that decision get made? And how would Alabama be best served to try to limit Ohio State?
Well, I think, first of all, take away Ohio State's run. That's what I do. If I was a defensive coordinator for Alabama, make it a 2nd and long situation, 2nd and 7, 2nd and 8. where now you're forcing Ohio State into a passing situation. If Ohio State gets 5 yards on first down, Katie bar the door because the whole playbook's open. So try to take away something, and that would be, of course, the run. Then you can play pass defense, and yet you can put some pressure on Justin Fields.
Yeah. Justin, Trey Sermon has put together a run of games here that is unprecedented in Ohio State history. He's over 500 yards last couple games. And, you know, his motor very clearly is running high right now. I'm curious about, you know, Alabama they play in the SEC. They play great players every week. They really do. We love to joke about it, but they do. SEC is really good. But I'm still not sure that they have faced a group of linemen the way that Ohio State will deploy, and especially the depth that Ohio State deploys. And the way that Trey Sermon's playing now, I'm not sure who's better than him, especially the SEC or anywhere. I mean, it has been a ferocious display from him.
The only one in the same conversation as Trey Sermon is Alabama's running back, and that's Najee Harris. But what Trey does is that he complements what Ohio State does. Ohio State will give you the gaps. They need you to be really good at the second level, and that's exactly what Trey Sermon is. He gives you speed, agility, all the things that you're looking for in the open field, because Ohio State will get you there. They average more than 6 yards per rush. It's what do you do once you get past that first 3 yards, and how do you take advantage of that? And the way that he's played through these last 3 weeks, the Big Ten championship, Michigan State, and this game against Clemson last week. I mean, I don't think, like you said, I don't think anybody has ever had a postseason effort like he has, except for maybe Ezekiel Elliott on Ohio State's title run. And he's been that good for Ohio State when he needs to be. And maybe a little bit of it, too, is that he has not split carries like he did at the beginning of the season. And remember, this is a guy that was coming from Oklahoma as a transfer, had to get used to the system in the same year where nothing's been normal. Nothing has been what he expected it to be. So it was going to take time. And it's been a shortened season on top of that. So it makes sense that he started peaking around the end of this season. So I think he's hitting at the right time, but it's because of the offensive line. And they play a huge role in why Ohio State averages 272 yards passing and 272 yards rushing.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, isn't it? That's
crazy.
Just an absurd stat. It's almost impossible to pull
Never
off.
happen again.
Yeah.
Right. It sounds like a joke. Coach Conley, I want to get you a quick update on Justin Fields. He looks good in warmups. He's throwing the ball
I like
well,
to hear
looks
that.
comfortable. I mean, now I guess the curiosity is the other part of his athletic capabilities, and that's running a ball. And I that's my curiosity is, does Ryan try to call something early just to see how he reacts, or do you try to, limit that risk to him as a ball carrier?
I think you have to start the game off with a little bit of caution that way. But if he's looking good, he's our 12th man. In other words, he's our passer and he's another runner. So he's that extra guy they have to account for on defense. And so if he is healthy, and it looks like he is, then big advantage of Ohio State. But you don't want to force the issue. Let him carry the ball when it has to be carried. Don't force it.
Yeah, he's running fine. I mean, he looks great out there running around. So, I mean, now again, he's not getting smashed by a 300-pounder, but he's running pretty well. I guess my curiosity is, from a defensive standpoint, right, for Alabama, everybody has their warts. We talk about that all the time, right? Everybody's got something that's not quite perfect. And Ohio State, clearly on defense, they've had their problems defending the pass. You can say the same thing about Alabama. Coach, it has not been perfect for them, but they do have an outstanding corner in Patrick Surtain. His father played in the NFL. As a matter of fact, in that stadium, played for the Dolphins. And so Patrick Jr., if you will, the second, kind of grew up watching NFL games in that environment. Now he's going to be there in the national title game. So they've got a special talent back there, and they've recruited well, but something hasn't really gone well. And when you consider what Florida did to him and Ole Miss did to him, there are points to be had out there.
Absolutely. The best way to take care of him, make him be a tackler. Make him have to come up and help out and run support. Then we can throw over top his head. That's how you take care of him. But, that's the thing Ole Miss did. They ran the ball really well against them, and they give up points. Their front seven is a good front seven, but they're not a normal front seven that has a couple first-round draft picks in it. So defensively, we can take advantage of our strength and the success we have had running the football this season with our big offensive line, come right after them. Force those defensive backs to have to come up and help on run support. That's when the big play happens. You can throw over top.
Going off of this, too, we talk about Alabama's secondary. Huge game-time decision is Malachi Moore. And this is a true freshman for Alabama. He has the most incompletions out of the slot of anybody, the most interceptions on the team. Patrick Surtain gets a lot of the credit, and he should, because he's the highest-rated cornerback this season. But Malachi Moore, as a true freshman, has played lights out. And if he's not available, you're going to see guys like Garrett Wilson, James Williams, guys like Julian Fleming have a big game because Chris Olave is going to get a lot of attention from Surtain. So Malachi Moore being available or not being available could be huge for their secondary.
Yeah,
I want to point out one guy. Hey, Bill, I want to point out one guy who we have yet to talk about who has been lights out for Ohio State in the past, basically ever since December. Justin Hilliard.
Man,
he's going to play his final game as a Buckeye tonight. As our good buddy Billy Griffin said, as the irrational Buckeye fan,
Get out of here.
Justin Hilliard isn't just a great linebacker; he's a suburb. And I think that kid is due. He has made, Coach, you look at what he did against Clemson. He tackled in space against one of the very best players in America with such security and confidence that, you're going to put him in space. That is a problem for Alabama. He's a veteran player. He's actually eligible. He could come back and play as a 7th-year player next year. He's not going to.
No.
It's going to be his last game. But he could come back and play like 7 years, like he's Van Wilder or something out there.
Well, he get his retirement at the same time he gets his diploma. But
what's that, Coach? I'm sorry?
I said he could get his retirement at the same time he gets his diploma.
Or his PhD.
If he stays around long enough.
A PhD, draw
absolutely.
From his 401k.
But the thing that makes him so good is his versatility, his athleticism. He plays a run equally as well as he plays the pass. And it shows it's been showing up on special teams. Everything he's on, every unit he's a part of has got better because of him.
I'm checking your page right now to see if Billy chimed in over there, Jared.
Oh, Bill.
He's not here right now.
Yeah, I hope he's somewhere bracing himself for impact out in California as he prepares to watch this game with every other Ohio resident who has migrated out to get work in the entertainment industry. Mo Hall, likely going to be out there celebrating hard tonight.
I was going to say, what's Billy's drink of choice? He's probably a few deep right now. Game's in a couple minutes.
I'm going to say, Coach, I'm going to say all of them.
I say whatever's closest.
Yeah, whatever's available. One last. I know we're running out of time here, so game kicks in about 15, 20 minutes here. Justin, how do you think this goes?
Yeah, I think it's high scoring. I don't see how either team's defense has an answer for what each team does on offense. We're looking at two offenses that are going to go down as the best ever in college football. I know that it was a shortened season. I think Alabama's offense is a tick better than LSU's was last year. And if Ohio State had a full season, they would have hit their stride right about the time that Alabama is as well. So I think these two offenses are going to go at it. It's going to be a slugfest. I think we're going to see if Ohio State can run the football about 150, 175 yards on the ground, then it's going to be a high-scoring, close game. If Ohio State can't run and they're one-dimensional and they try to catch up to Alabama, I don't think that works very well. You saw Notre Dame getting a hole early. Ohio State can't do that. They can't fall early to Alabama and try to come back in this game because Alabama just puts people away. So I think it's high scoring. I think it's 45-42 Buckeyes.
All right, Coach. Nobody on ESPN's coverage that I saw except for Thundering Herd great Randy Moss picked Ohio State in this game. What say you?
I always thought Randy was smart. I really did.
Randy's and his brother a Buckeye.
Exactly. Hey, what I think is this. I think it is going to be high scoring. I agree. It could be a 4-point victory by the Buckeyes or more. But as much as we talk about both teams' offense, I think the key is going whoever plays the best third down defense is going to win the game. Defense will win the game. Offense is going to score the points, but defense will win the game, making big plays in crucial situations.
Yeah. And Alabama, I believe, is number 1 in the country in third down conversions, which tells you a little something about how they have done this year when they've been in those spots and they've maybe, try to run it on first down and run into a wall and have to pick up something on third. They always seem to have an answer for that. And that'll be interesting. If Ohio State can get off the field, I think they got a good chance. And, I think, look, It's the national championship game. No one needs motivation. You know, that's the
Correct.
beautiful thing here. Nobody's sleeping on any. It is just all out. What do you got? And I think even despite the roster issues that Ohio State has had all year, they have found a way. That is a complete credit to their players and their coaching staff. I think they have done a remarkable job this year.